Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome to the live stream, the first one of 2026. It's great to have you guys here, and what a crazy year start we've had. We had squeezes over Christmas, just when I was talking about the idea of having a little bit of potential time off from the markets. Then we, of course, got the news about Venezuela over the weekend, and that's just to really start off with some of the information we've actually been seeing around. So what does it all mean? Today we'll cover stocks, we'll cover commodities, we'll cover cryptos. And the last one there, cryptos, old Bitcoin, sneaking up a little bit on people, I think, over the last two sessions, and maybe the bit of the insider kind of trade there at this stage. And of course, copper mooning to 3%. PLTR, I can only assume that's up big time today. It's I didn't actually look at it pre, but I'm assuming that's up a bit. Yeah, 4.12%. So it's up a little bit. But metals, gold, silver, particularly some of the other metals as well, platinum, palladium coming off the lows. Some of those look all right. I particularly like the platinum pullbacks and palladium pullbacks. I think they look quite attractive at these prices. Again, potential. Again, my opinion. Again, don't do anything with it, guys. As you know the drill, 2025 into 2026. But some good technical levels either way in terms of what we've been seeing. And basically, really kind of what we've been discussing. We had metals, we then had energy, and we've obviously already seen energy being flowing through for the last month and a half, 2 months in the private community. We've been following it for 2 and a bit months in terms of oil services. And I again haven't clicked the button just yet because I wanted to be surprised, but I'm assuming this is up probably about 3 to 5. Yeah. So 5% up on oil services. And the big one here, so if we go to Chevron, we're going to be seeing some pretty nutty numbers. I think it's going to be, I was thinking 10, but 7.6. So we kind of got to look at this for a moment and say, well, wait a second, is this still relatively okay? I mean, it's at 167. A lot of people did recognize this flag last week into Friday. There were a couple of good activations at the close, actually. And then it's like Wall Street knows, Do they know? What do you guys think in the chat? Do they know? I think they do. Reported Venezuela holds 600,000 BTC. Is that true? Interesting. Yo, greetings, Tom and everyone. Happy New Year from Sunshine Girl. Great to have you here. We've got heaps and heaps of people joining us saying Happy New Year to everyone. Awesome community. Thank you so much. This is the only channel I never miss. Tom is the best. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Someone joining us at 2 a.m. Anyone else joining us at 2 a.m. in the morning? You are certainly quite keen on markets. There's no doubt. 2 a.m. is even more dedicated than I am nowadays. So we've got a nice a flag pattern here on, of course, Chevron breaking up. Is this cheap? It's still cheaper than it was back in 22. Obviously, they are probably one of the big winners in terms of if you want to look at winners and losers from this event, because they were already operating in Venezuela still. They were one of the only ones to still be doing it. So they're probably going to have things up and running faster. But all is not what it may seem. Everybody thinks that everything's going to be fantastic and whatever, or at least that's what I'm seeing on Twitter or X. And I think that you've always got to say, okay, one of the sayings we say on this channel is if it's in the press, it's in the price. And that doesn't mean that there's not movements here that could sustain due to a few reasons. I mean, geopolitical uncertainty, which this certainly is, helps the metals trade. It particularly helps gold more than anything else, and silver, platinum, and silver. But you can see here gold breaking up again today. Nice little bounce there. Actually, a really good break of 4,400, which is quite strong. It kind of points towards maybe a new all-time high for gold relatively soon. That's actually quite strong because that's a decent break if it can hold the close. But you've got to remember that there are also a lot of people just thinking that everything will just work out. And unfortunately, I had a look through history and I looked at everything, and it's just never as it seems. It's messy, it's complicated. And I think you often just want to be looking at what this channel and what we do best, which is obviously we look at flows, we look at price action, and we look at the movements as they're actually confirming and happening, rather than the narratives that are going around. And I would caution anyone from going too crazy on narratives, because remember, you probably have insufficient information to be making a really good, non-judgmental movement into markets. So if you're basing most of your thing on a gut feel, People in the chat, what do you think about gut feels and investing and trading? Let us know. I'll highlight a couple of comments. Also, for the 350 people joining us here early, if you can give the stream a thumbs up. It's been a couple of weeks since we've live streamed, so that does help to push it out to more people that are subbed so they can see it going on. 847 million ounces of silver Venezuelan had was interesting. Yes, I've heard these types of numbers, and it's going to be an interesting component here. And what do we got here? A few people going through big stuff. Gut feels get you eviscerated from Valdo. Absolutely. It's a very dangerous type of way of trading. So I think first up, what is the first and second kind of likely scenario? The first scenario is generally with geopolitical tensions rising and uncertainty. Central banks generally purchase precious metals. We're in a currency war already, so therefore precious metals have already been very good. You guys know we were huge fans in 24. So do we continue to be fans of metals and think they're going up in 26 and 24 and 25? The answer is quite simply yes. Again, this type of thing usually leads into central banks purchasing more. Currency wars already in place. Geopolitical tensions already in place. Historically, that has continued trends with precious metals. So I think first up, if you're looking at the longer term approach, it's kind of positive for those. I do still think silver could kind of do all sorts of things for a little while as it got volatile over the break. But either way, longer term still looks good. And I've remained bullish on that for years now, especially gold. So second thing is, who is the second kind of winner? Well, arguably, I posted over on X about this. It's most likely credit in Venezuela. So credit will go up. That is, it was trading for like 10 to 20 cents in the dollar. Maybe it'll go to 25 to 40 cents in the dollar. In terms, it'll be repriced up. I would say this is a very tough trade. So I would probably put an X through that. It's not going to be easy to get to. Who is the third big winner? And you guys in the chat, let me know what your opinions are. I think the third big winner is, of course, American refiners and American oil stocks. And we already saw this in oil services. And particularly, it's the services because Venezuela's infrastructure is no good. I mean, it's obviously been heavily invested back in the 1970s. There's been investment over the years, and it's degraded a bit. And if you actually look at barrel output, because of sanctions, it's been low for quite some time. So I did some quick math, and I found that the overall barrel production obviously could go up, but it's going to take a long time. And I estimated that it will be about 1 to 2 years to really get meaningful extra extraction out. Now, someone in the chat, if you have a different opinion, let me know. I'll read it out and we can discuss it here. But I do think that oil services still continue to look quite good. And obviously the winners are Chevron is clear. And then the rest, who knows? And again, speculation. So, this is just the finance side. It's not anything else. We're obviously just looking at the finance side here. So I think that's kind of the third big point. The fourth big point is actually that this could hurt, obviously, China a bit because a lot of the oil was going to China. So it could be interesting for the petrodollar kind of trade, which is obviously the US dollar could actually go up a little bit. And we could also see yields start to play a little bit. So we'll be watching that one. And inadvertently, you might actually also see barrels of oil go up initially. And this is going to be, I think, the interesting. And I'm not sure about that yet. And I think we let price action deal with that. JB Sen says the GOAT called OIH and Unreal. It's not so much that it's goated or anything, but I do appreciate that. I like being, who wouldn't want to be called GOAT? But thank you very much. But at the same time, it's because of flow, man. So if you go back over and you look at oil services, this is actually a classic out of my day trading class. So day trading and advanced class, I do teach how to replicate this. This is actually just a replication. At the time, I wasn't really thinking about this play in terms of, I knew it was there, but I gave it a certain likelihood. Let's just say I gave it 35, 40% likelihood. It's an arbitrary number I made up. But I give it a likelihood. It's not about that. It's about you see the flow go in and you start to question, what do they know and what information do they have that we don't? And at the time, obviously, it's likely they did have something because flows start to go into it. So remember, that's why I always say the number one most important thing on this channel is actually a lot of our TA work and flow work because, and I'm sure you guys like that. I'd love to actually know in 2026, what's your favorite thing of the show? What is your favorite number one, number two, maybe favorite things that you like about the show? Because it does help me improve it. So in 26, I think we'll be coming on with the cams again, going back to 21, do some live streams on camera with you guys. Obviously get on there's a few people want me to do that for whatever reason. I think we've got to up the quality there a little bit. But I also do want to continue to bring you high quality standard stuff. So particularly with thought processes. So TA flow is very important. Options flow, obviously very important. Data, very good as well. Macro, certainly a good storyline. Does help. But again, also interesting to see if the macro is prevailing because everyone right now is talking about oil. But I actually think it might go up, not even based on the reasons that everyone's talking about. So yeah, it's really interesting to see all of these things line up. When you get everything, that is a smiley face. We also love that. So do oil services still look good? Yes. And again, I think they're relatively good until you're really getting back into the 340s, 360s. And that's still a little bit far away. And Chevron obviously flagged. So if it holds up, which I expect it to hold up at least 5%-ish, ideally, then we should be looking at some oil moving for a little while here. The info they have is that we don't is oh, Marion, well. Venezuela is resisting America, at least what's left of the government. Ben's oil equities, naphtha to make it thinner. So Venezuela oil, naphtha volume. Okay, thank you. Yep. Bullish on this, drill, baby, drill. Okay. Biggest winner. Gut feel, well, Druckenmiller, buy first, analyze later. Yeah. Reported that Venezuela started accumulating back in 2018. Iran had recently started military equipment BTC accumulation. Oh, okay. It's interesting on the BTC side. We'll talk about BTC in a moment. Venezuela has lots of outside influence. I believe the president will be reinstated once American sorts it. Okay. Best thing, 0 DTE levels. Okay, appreciate it. Tom jokes are the best thing in the show, to be honest. Thanks very much. There's a huge push to expand energy production for data centers just as the transition to off-world, which will result in huge overproduction. Okay. Oh, I love to hear about the barrels. Markets will hit records this week. Okay, all right. Some funny comments. All right, so oil services. It looks pretty good. It doesn't look bad. How long? I think if you're doing TA, you're generally going 340, 360. Obviously, Chevron will also be a good counter to that if it does complete a flag. So I think that's kind of the energy side of things. With barrels, don't get too crazy on barrels yet or make any too hasty decisions. You could argue that here is a little bullish for barrels. But at the same time, you can see here, if we get past 60, I think that's when you're starting to break the downward trend. So at the moment, of course, the trend is quite significantly, I would say, down. It hasn't changed towards the upside. So you've got to be a bit careful there with the barrel side. Let's move over to the stock market for a moment. The 5th is an important date because does anyone know why the 5th of January is important? And it's not just because the Steam winter sale is going to end and you need to get those cheap price games right now, guys. Otherwise, it's all going to run out. If you know, you know. US 500 also finishes the Christmas rally concept. So that is the Santa Claus rally. So will we actually see green or red? You may not think much of it, but actually it's a very important statistic that starts to back in. So what we do is we use usually between 3 to 5 stats over January, and we bring them together, and we do this every year. And what we then do is we can start to model that for how the year may look. And you might think that is some serious tea leaf stuff, but actually it's pretty accurate. So I thought I'd drink a little bit of tea there just for the tea leaf stuff. But 3 to 5 stats, and that is a pretty decent read. So I think January is going to be super important this year. It's a midterm year. Okay, yes, it's technically a second presidential cycle. So therefore, the stats actually are less negative towards the midterm than usual. Usually, the midterms are horrendous, and the first one's in particular shocking. But it's pseudo troublesome because you've got the first run, and then obviously you had Biden in between. Then you got Trump again, and it's kind of like, is it the first? Is it the second? It gets a little confusing. US 500 though still looks bullish. You've got to look at your weeklies, and you've got to say, okay, well, what happened? Last week it was down a little bit, came off very strong in that middle of December with that nice bullish hammer, and the price action is still ultimately bullish. And do remember, when you're looking at the options lines, guys, you're talking about 68.50 here, 68.50, 6900. These two levels have a ton of puts on them. So you might say, oh, well, this conflict will tank the stock market. Generally speaking, you find that these events often raise the stock market. I know that seems weird, but it's counterintuitive in some ways. And 6,800 is a very solid base inputs right now. You can see it doesn't matter which strike we're looking at. We continuously get 6,800, 6,800, 6,800. I think we've got a decent floor this week at 68.50, 6,800. And that points towards the stock market doing a little bit better than you may think. I don't think it's going to apply to 2026, Tom. Yep. That's thanks very much, Dave, as well. It's good to see you here, man. Happy 2026. I don't think this is going to apply 2026. Yeah, I think 2026, the midterm year election stat, I would use it cautiously because everyone knows about it. You're up early. Well, I'm in the land of the down unders, so I'm actually up really late, dude. It's almost 10 p.m. But thank you very much for getting up early. I've seen a niche group from Silver's price action that remind me of GME cult. It's crazy how much you can't know for sure. Yeah, Silver does have a cult behind it. There's no doubt. There's this Silver stackers kind of people. And don't get me wrong, I love Silver, but you've got to not be blinded. And I remember when I first got into trading back in 2007 and investing, and then 2011, everybody went crazy on silver and gold. They went crazy. They were crazy. And then for a decade, they were crazy. Like every time silver went down, the amount of bullish action that people were talking about was just so wild. It was just, and then the despair by 2017, 18 was significant. Because silver was, of course, trash for a long time. And it always has its day again, but it's like it lost a decade. And that's what it often does. It goes into booms, it goes into busts, and you've got to be on the right side of it. So for now, we're in a boom, and I don't see a bust just yet for the precious metals. And I guess that's good news if you like them still. The US 500 is still positive. NASDAQ is less positive. You can see here it's not as bullish, but one of the most important bellwethers, so one of the most important stocks, which is NVDA. Anyone know the pattern that I'm seeing on this at the moment? Anyone? Let's see. Let's do a little test here of everybody's TA for 2026. Read a couple more comments. I don't think it's going to apply. Tom, keeping an eye on the Grinch sighting. Last day of the Santa today, so it's going to be interesting. Oil and news so far. Crypto comes later on. Yep, we'll do crypto in just a moment. Massive week for tech news at CES starting today. Yes, we can just imagine it now. NVIDIA come out. By the way, they were meant to release the NVIDIA Super card, which was going to be a better graphics card with more RAM. Now, I'm going to do a poll. Does anyone think that's coming? Let's see. NVIDIA Super, if you know what it is, NVIDIA Super announced. Yes or no? It's that simple. I don't even know if I typed that correctly. But the thing is, I want your opinion. Are they going to do it? Now, remember, RAM price just jacked up huge. They were meant to release higher RAM graphics cards. Do you think they're going to do it? Or are they going to burn the normal enthusiast hobby market? AMD looks crazy right now. We'll check it out in a moment. Looking forward to your BTC analysis. Also, MSTR, if you follow that. MSTR. We do look, but we don't love. Oh, Dave Marvin's still got some silver. Yeah, you'd be like, it's interesting. Double bottom, double bottom, double bottom. Yeah, pretty much. If you, again, one of the things I would say, if you don't already do it in TA, very basic technique, start at higher time frames, weekly, monthly, go into daily, go into 4 hour, go into 2 hour, and look at the structure of the markets. It doesn't really matter which time frame you're on so much as long as you understand what the market's telling you. So here the market comes down, hits a low. Previously, that was support or demand zone. So obviously, it was where we saw bids before and accumulation. And then we bid off it. Okay, that's good. Then we drop back down. Then we bid off it again. And we found enough strength to break that previous peak. So that lower peak in here. And we're now consolidating. And then the next most important thing is obviously we want to look at options. We want to say, okay, well, is NVIDIA looking any good on the options? There's a lot of striking for 200. You'll see 200 comes up a lot in the different dates, and it's kind of like a gravitation zone. So yeah, I think the market looks all right from NVIDIA's perspective. So again, it's very difficult to be bearish on US stocks. I also noticed that the DAX was taking a new all-time high earlier today, and this actually looks pretty good. It's at one point we talked about whether this could be distribution. Obviously, we saw this low hit instantly spike back up, which gave us a very good sign that it was likely accumulation into a spike. It was, and now we're potentially breaking out. So this is a pit, a decent amount of burn. The price on the market from June, so that's 6 months of sideways action. So again, European market starting off pretty strong here when it comes to breakouts. And I think that's due to probably the defense stocks rallying a bit today on geopolitical tensions. So again, that's all having this flow on effect, guys. It is really having this flow on effect. Copper, very strong. Looks like we're going to get an all-time high. What can I say? You know, we kind of called it. You guys did well. Well done. Good work, guys. Gotta say, some big brains in the community working out those flows last year. This was certainly one we had in the private community as well earlier, and it just had great TA on it. You know, great price action. You know, made sense. We had gold, we had silver, we then had platinum, palladium. The next one's usually going to be copper. Iron ore started to go as well. We got a lot of aluminium. Depends on where you are in the world. You spell it differently. Down under, we call it aluminium. But now I call it aluminum, guys. I've learned the new word. So, yeah, pretty good stuff here on copper. Still looks quite bullish. Also seeing lithium going up, all those types of things. Short MSTR. Oh, I'm not sure about that anymore. Japan, Nikkei was up about 3% today. Bullish US equities. Yeah, well, all equities seem to be up. We also saw the only one that was down a little was China. And it does kind of lose out here a little bit. But I think the important thing is, you know, do we see decent price action here? Obviously, downward trend line as well. We could be breaching that soon and starting, you know, more rally. And I'm starting to see a little bit of pumping going on in some of the Chinese stocks. So I think it's a bit of a sleeper that people are not considering at this stage. Someone mentioned TSM before. I have to have a look at this before crypto. Interesting. So it's actually breached up off a pit. Again, semiconductors rallying. So yeah, Taiwan semiconductors, PLTR, you know, quite a few stocks going all right. And someone also mentioned AMD. Let's have a quick look at AMD. AMD at 230, so up 3%. So generally speaking, pretty bullish on the market for 2026 so far. Lithium. Yeah. Lithium, yes. Any thoughts on copper leading oil? Yeah, well, usually yields, man. So yields are something I look at as well. And I just don't see oil barrels doing anything yet. I often look at UK oil as well. So obviously the two different types of oil barreling, and we're just not getting that bid through this. And that's why I said to you guys, you know, oil services were the hot stuff, energy stocks, oil services were the hot stuff. And I cautioned against barrels all of 2025. I didn't like barrels because the problem is barrels are so geopolitical that there's all these It's almost like the cartels. Cartels everywhere. It's the barrels of the cartels, guys. Very tough. Oil is dead. I wouldn't say it's dead. I just think it's very heavily geopolitically manipulated. Got almost 800 people here live this morning. Thank you so much, guys. Do give a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. So far, we've covered off precious metals, our thoughts on those. So if you want to jump back, you can have a look. Gold, silver, platinum, palladium. Particularly like platinum, palladium, and gold right now. And then we talked about copper. We talked about a little bit of iron ore, aluminum. And then we went through oil, obviously the winners and the big winners, I guess, if you want to call it that in finance for the news over the weekend. And we ranked them as precious metals and metals generally. So pretty much all metals and minerals and things. Then we ranked it as debt, which is just too hard to look at. But debt obviously will get repriced a little bit here. And that's just going to be a very quick kind of move, very tough to get hold of. And then, of course, we ranked energy stocks over energy. Natural gas starting to move. Love the chart. Nice chart. You better be telling the truth here. Let's have a look. You know, I don't like natural gas as a trade because it costs a fortune if you get it wrong. Hey, this is the chart I like thinking about. Wait a second. You're getting trolling me here. With the natural gas, I don't know if that looks that hot. Looks like it kind of fell off a cliff. Look, I do like the base structure break of about 378. So if you had to ask me the question of do I think gas has likely bottomed, as in do I think we're going back to 180s? I don't think so. I think there's a decent chance that in here is a little bit more interesting. Another one I want to look at when we're talking about natural gas. So it's kind of like at the right area, but there's no movement in the hood just yet. And uranium was one that I thought looked pretty good as of Friday with that huge double bust up of these big rejection weeks. Really, really nice stuff. So that's really super awesome. We got Brew and Build. Thank you very much for becoming a new member. Appreciate it. Is that you on top of a building? You standing on the roof there? It's very cool. What is that house? Oh, maybe you built it yourself. Thank you very much for joining. Hopefully you're having a great 2026. So yeah, I do quite like the uranium setup again this year. But uranium is one of those ones that I think you got to know when to hold it, know when to dump it, because I don't really believe that it's going to hold up forever. It's going to be one of those ones that just holds for a while. All right, let's jump on to the next point, which is, of course, crypto. And I'm sure a few of you are wondering, what do you think about Bitcoin, Tom? What do you think about Bitcoin? Well, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say, let's finish this poll. 57% of you think that we're going to get NVDA supers. Hey? No way. I would have said no for sure. That means I'm probably wrong. I would have said no for sure. Has that happened? No way. 57% of you. I think NVIDIA is going to hoard their RAM and use it to sell to data centers. I don't see any reason why they do the super. They're forgetting about their original. Remember I said this? This always happens with big businesses. They forget about who started them. You know, who started this YouTube? You guys. By watching, commenting, liking, doing that type of stuff. I don't forget. I know you guys did it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a channel if it wasn't for you guys. So, you know, yes, I bring in the content, I put in the work, and I constantly, you know, try to elevate my learning and stay ahead of the game, because you have to. When you give up and you go, oh, yeah, I know enough, no way. Now, someone messaged me and they said, I think I know everything about markets. That means you know nothing about markets. Remember the Dunning-Kruger effect? See, do I know everything about markets? What do you think, guys? I know a lot. I don't know everything. Of course I don't. I have to keep learning. I have to keep evolving. And then you just work out whether there's edge or not there. So, Bitcoin. Do I like it? I do. I think it looks pretty hot. I actually posted a tweet or an X post or whatever we still call this. And I really, really like this. So obviously I had that 90,500, 800 level. I've been talking about it. Seems like an eon. And then all of a sudden we get this news breaking on the weekend And I'm just like, Bitcoin looks so much better than so many other things. And it just goes to show that when that happens, when you get these breakouts of news, Bitcoin may only be up 2.66%, but it's matching a lot of things right now. And it does stuff, or markets move in mysterious ways. And I always say that, like, when things are moving and no one's looking at them, I tend to like them more, especially if everyone disagrees with me. And I had some guy told me, he said, "Oh, you're a moron." And I said, "Wow." I said, "I like it even more now." Thank you so much, dude. Whoever you are, the one that called me a moron, that was fantastic. I was like, damn, I think this is really bullish now. So it's actually pushing towards 94 and a half. You've got to love that because it's pretty good, 94 and a half. And then we break that, then you're starting to think about, I think about 102 to 104. I'm actually quite a big fan of this. And I'll update the liquidity levels on it tomorrow. I guess tomorrow for me, obviously end of Monday for you guys. And I'll post them out because I think there's going to be some interesting liquidity levels. I already know where they are. I mean, of course, we've got some here, but I do think the next liquidity is likely up in here in 108, kind of 106. So there could be a big pump here on Bitcoin relatively soon. And again, what's the catalyst? Look, the catalyst is probably just time, just burnt time. So you've got to remember, time is money. Time is one of the most important assets in life. Arguably, it's our most important asset that each one of us has. And we have a finite amount of time. So time, it's like those, was it To Kill a Mockingbird? Is that the film when they trade time and they buy it off people? Is that the film, or am I thinking something else? Was it Minority Report? I can't remember. I don't really watch Hollywood films anymore. Anyone else think that Hollywood? When was the last? Oh man, I haven't been to the cinema in a long time. There's nothing there anymore for us. Just a sea of trash remakes. Luckily, we have YouTube. So Bitcoin, 94 and a half. I really like this level. I think that's going to be a pretty significant breach up. And I really like the break here of 90,800. I think that's quite strong. And I do also think that it's pretty good weekly close. So if we look here at the market for a second, we have to consider that most people's bear case was this into a flag, into a short, into these rejections where they said, aha, it's crap. And then, of course, everyone's short in here. A lot of people have stops here. They'll be sweating it right now. So if we get past here, it's probably going to start squeezing them. So I do think that maybe it's a little bit of a hidden one. Look, there's always a possibility it dumps. That's trading. There's a certain statistic around it. Again, it's not a solicitation to buy, guys. Please place anything you do with your own risk and parameters and everything else. But I think price action has improved past 90,800. BTC has to reach 140K USD to get back to the 50% of the drop from all-time highs. Okay. In Time with Justin Timberlake. Oh, yeah. Wow, that was a forgettable film. I just remember the concept, and that's all I remember. They touched it or something. That's not To Kill a Mockingbird? Is that what I said? Oh, I meant Hunger Games. To Kill a Mockingbird. That's like the thing I did in school where we had like Atticus Finch. I think that was the one. Atticus, and he was like some boss lawyer. I need to buy an M2 just before Christmas. It was painful. Good Lord, BTC is mooning. I wouldn't call that a moon, man. That's nothing. That's only the beginning, if anything. Vaporware, NVDA, yes. Seen the price of M2 RAM these discs these days? Nope. NVIDIA supers are just like, it's meant to be, NVIDIA have current graphics cards, then usually they release a super halfway through the cycle, which kind of gets people buying stuff again. But I don't think they will this time. What do you think about MSTR then? MSTR, let's have a look. Looks hideous, doesn't it? But you've got to say, is it oversold? Yes. If Bitcoin goes up, will it go up? Ultimately, yes. Do I prefer it over Bitcoin? No. No. Have I ever preferred it over Bitcoin? No. I mean, personally, if I was going to rather than trade MSTR, I would have just always held Bitcoin and done a small lever on it. I mean, that's my personal opinion. I don't understand why I'd be doing this, but anyway. That's not for me to understand. And it was a genius concept, of course, in its packaging at the time. I think it was very big. But unfortunately, everybody's on it now. So you've got to remember that has diminished it. Now, is this good demand? Yes, on paper it is. I think, though, if you look at what's the NAV down to for this? It must be, what is it, like 1.1, 1.2 now? It must be quite low. No one trusts MSTR now. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a lick. So if you look at listed investment companies, a lot of the time licks will trade. Like people say, oh, it's trading underneath, fair value or whatever. NAV's 1-to-1. Yeah. So that was always eventually going to happen. And a lot of people don't understand that with licks, they often trade underneath book value. And it's always, has anyone fallen into this trap before? If you don't know what lick is, listed investment company, you can look it up in ChatGPT or whatever. But people always get into this idea that licks have to trade at exactly fair value. Most of them trade underneath. So you might say, why? Well, there are many reasons why, but it's pretty normal for that to happen. So do I think this is around the right price? Well, obviously, I think it'll go up if Bitcoin goes up, and it is around demand. But I would never chart this chart. I would always chart Bitcoin. And then if you want to pseudo proxy that for whatever reason, then of course it is there. I don't think I want to ask you what you think of BMNR. BMNR, Bitmine. I think the same thing. Wow, did it really go to this price? Ooh. Ooh. 159. I don't think those people are getting their money back. 159, guys. That is high. If you want MSTR, just buy BTC. That's always been my argument. And I talked to MSTR maxis back when it was really hyping back in 2024, 25 early. And I still couldn't get it. I just didn't understand. I was just like, buy Bitcoin. And they're like, yeah, but, and I'm like, yeah, but for you, buy Bitcoin. For the other people getting involved in it for their own reasons, the bonds guys, I get that. But yeah, three NAV. It seems unbelievable, yeah, when you think about it. And this is what I always get at markets. It's actually a great lesson. And what the lesson is if something seems too good to be true, you've got to really, it's tough, but you got to really think about it. Yeah. Because it gets people time and time again. You might say, well, we've got AI, we've got smart people, everyone's genius and stuff, and everyone's getting knowledge. Just a year ago, we saw MSTR trading at over 3 NAV. We've seen in 2022 cars trading, mass production cars trading at $30,000 to $50,000 above MSRP. This is nutter stuff. GameStop 420. Now whatever it is. So when you think about, can things happen again? I always say, yeah, of course they can. Could the market go ballistic and double this year? It's possible, improbable, but it is possible. And you've got to expect the impossible to a lot of people. It's happened. It can happen. Hey, Tom, what have I missed? Quite a lot. We've talked about metals. We've talked about the stock market. We talked about Angie stocks. And we talked about, of course, our thoughts on Bitcoin. Let's have a quick look at here at Ethereum. See whether Ethereum, maybe Solana and stuff are giving us any love. A little bit of improvement here on Ethereum. I do like the little mini bull level break. So obviously I've got that marked. Obviously I've got 34.50 marked as well. If we have a look at another kind of coin, let's have a look here at Solana for a second. Solana, some improvement. No breach to the upside yet. So obviously early days here on the alts. XRP. Okay, look at XRP. XRP actually interesting because it has broken a pretty significant downward trend. Did that, funnily enough, start of this year. So that's actually doing not too bad at all when you consider it. And it's coming up to a fairly important level here around 2.2. So I think mostly all eyes should be on Bitcoin. 94 and a half, going to be a pretty big level. I think that's where the main liquidity will sit at this point. If you're checking alts, look at XRP. Funny you should say that. We actually had a look. Looked a lot better than the other two that we looked at. So XRP, I'd actually rank it as Bitcoin than XRP. And I don't even like XRP. So again, my opinion on XRP means nothing when you see flow. What do you think about JP225? I don't tend to like the Nikkei because I just don't usually trade it. You might say that's stupid. You should trade what's seen. But yeah, I've never really been a huge fan of this market. I just don't like it. I find it to be notoriously boom and bust. It also had done nothing for a very long time. So you got to remember when I got into markets, it was here, it got collapsed because it always gets levered up. It got collapsed. It didn't recover until pretty much 15. And then until I really started the YouTube channel about here, it was a lost decade and just trash. So predominantly, I've never really been a huge fan also because of the currency risk. I wasn't a huge fan of going into yen, which I think has been partially proven correct due to what's happened with yen. But yeah, obviously it's ballistic right now. And what's the Korean market code? What's the Korean market stock exchange called? I want to have a look at that in a minute. Let's have a look at the Nifty 50 for a second. We should check all of these for this year. Have a look at the Nifty 50. A lot of you guys want me to do the Nifty 50 this year. Nifty 50, we probably should use a better code than this. I understand why. It's a very important code in the future. Okay, so we've got an all-time high. So, yeah, I mean, the Indian market looks pretty good. Can't hate on the Indian market. It's certainly an emerging one. BTC is garbage, pump and dump scam. Again, I think you've got to look at, I don't think that's fair. I understand your reasoning, and it's fine. You're entitled to your opinion on it. I totally understand that opinion. But at the same time, I think that discussion's been many times talked over. It's like people say gold is a scam. The main thing I always say about gold is if I went back to the Egyptian times, I'd be rich with gold. If I went back to the Roman times, I'd be rich with gold. If I went back to the Aztec times, I'd be rich with gold. Doesn't really matter what time in history you went back to, predominantly your gold would probably set you free. And that's, in my opinion, my most bullish case on gold. I don't really care what anyone else has to say. That is, how people have their own truths. I feel like, let's say Atlantis is real. I could go back to Atlantis, guys, and potentially be rich with gold. So, I mean, how can you deny the shiny rock has done very well for quite a few thousand years? So I don't care about AI robots or anyone else's opinion on it. Ultimately, the cold hard facts are any point in history is pretty good for gold. And yes, okay, sometimes you might lose the gold. You go bury it out the back, but generally you could do something with it. If you don't have access to Bitcoin and ETFs, what else can I do? Buy coin stock. Again, you've got to make your own decisions, man. Don't just go jump into things if you're not familiar or can't trade them. Coin itself will trade with Bitcoin. However, it's not really what I would call an activation at this point. So we had demand over here. We've undercut that demand over here. Been pretty weak, and you'll see I've got an alert up here. I'll talk about coin this year, I'm sure, but not just yet. They call gold the old man for a reason. Mm-hmm. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen from Massachusetts. Hello, conservative movement. What's up, dude? If I go back to Atlantis, I'm buying NVDA. Gold is desired by every country on earth. Bitcoin, on the other hand, who really wants digital digits on the screen? Or paper gold traders want digits on the screen. Do you think the carry trade is something that's still logical in 2026? Yeah, it's not my favorite thing, so I tend not to talk about it too much. Regulations potentially on the 15th for alts. Interesting. Again, that could be a catalyst here for some Bitcoin action. I'm sure you talked about it already, but are you seeing silver COMEX prices breaking relative to registry? I haven't spoken about this too much. I do think there's a lot of stories. Look, when you get to what silver's done, which is pretty unbelievable. I mean, obviously, silver hit 80 plus. Let's go and have a look at it for a second. So, silver hit 80 plus. What is it? $83 an ounce. And some reported shops were selling real silver bars for like $130. Obviously, that's a once off kind of thing. But let's say $90 for real silver. It's pretty unbelievable stuff, but I always find that when everyone's talking about something, I don't tend to be too interested in it anymore because I think the main moves happened. And for any viewer on this channel, man, when did we start talking about silver, guys? The longer term viewers. You guys know we talked about silver a long time ago. And, I loved it back then because I thought it was super damn cheap. Just like I thought copper was cheap. It was super damn cheap. Just like I thought oil services looked weird the other day. So I don't like silver when it does this. This is not normal. It's not good. When you get a 15, 16% up down move, it tends to mean the easiest money's been made for now. So it tends to be a lot of up, down, up, down, up, down. And what happens now is you get weird narratives. You get these narratives of JP Morgan's going to go bankrupt and Goldman Sachs is trying to manipulate price and something about, the paper contracts, they can't settle them. I mean, I think today there was some announcement from JP Morgan claiming that silver is going to go down 15% because of there's downward pressure on silver, which I mean, it could mean that they actually are a little bit in trouble here. But the problem with all of this is that all might be true, but ultimately they're kind of strangling liquidity. So by doing that, it's likely they're going to win unless everybody's going to ape. And I've always said this about these ape short squeeze concepts. I know everyone thinks that they're going to come in with good intentions, but I said this when we did GameStop in 2021. I say it now. When the digits go green on the screen and they're green and they're big time green, someone's going to press the close button. They're not going to all hold and ape together. Easy to ape with a couple of grand. It's not so easy to ape with a few $1 million. MSTR have that delisting thing in Jan 15th. Should be a good buy if that doesn't happen. That's true. It could be a very interesting trade or investment or whatever around there. Obviously, probably not one I think you've got much edge on, but certainly price action could be interesting there. If I don't have access, coin stock, we did that before. Try to get a ticket to the Coliseum with BTC. I was just talking about this on the weekend. I was thinking about, what was it, Julius Caesar or whatever, and he's like sitting there with his thumb and he puts it out and then he goes down or up. And I was thinking, how ridiculous is the world back then? And then you bring it up. It's funny. You wouldn't get those tickets for the Coliseum with BTC. That's true. But the gold would. Oh, gold is a real asset. I guarantee this person does not hold physical gold. Physical gold's a pain in the ass, guys. I know people think it's good, but once you get a couple of bars, you're like, oh, it's scary. And it costs a lot to hold. That's why I think the best way to do it is through ETFs that hold bullion in the bank. Yeah, the question is, do they really hold in the bank? Well, they're meant to be audited. This isn't quite like paper CFDs. BTC got outperformed by Fartcoin. Is that true? Silver's being played, likely. Looking at 1 year or so smooth brains, I think silver's pretty good for multiple years. I don't think silver is investing or even trading now. It's a lottery ticket. I still think it's cheap because ratio is still correct. You got to remember silver hit, if you can believe it, 40 plus an ounce back in 1970s. Okay, it was kind of, super overpriced back then. But then we saw it hit it again over a decade ago. So it is $75. You might say that's expensive. In my opinion, it's still actually a bit cheap that it should be. It still should be more expensive. I know my target was this price, but it's actually still cheap, just a ratio. I'm a pretty big fan of First Majestic out of Canada Mining in Mexico for silver thoughts. We've looked at First Majestic many times. It was usually the one that I've looked at as a silver proxy play for stocks. So we've done this a few times. It's kind of at that target I had for it. So again, that's why I said the other day with metals at the start of the year, actually the end of last year, I kind of started saying, we've got a lot of correlation here, guys. Look at this correlation. We nail level across the board. Everything was nailing. Copper was nailing a hit. Silver was nailing a hit. We had gold kind of doing its thing. Platinum, palladium were nailing. Ratios were nailing. It was pretty amazing. It's a beautiful thing when we see that. I love it when we get a good bit of correlation. Right, because they're trying to dump paper on the market. Yeah. So have a quick look at the news for this week, guys. So we do have some news, and let's have a look what's happening. So first up, we have Monday, ISM manufacturing PMI at 10 a.m. New York time, guys. Then we have random Australian figures. Then we have ISM PMI, JOLTS, and this little ADP non-farm. Don't care about that number, but by Friday, we get the old non-farm employment change. So do remember this week actually has some big news in it. And it's only a few weeks away now from earnings season kicking off once again. This is a big earnings season coming up too. So non-farm employment change expected to be kind of replacement level. So I think something around 40 to 55K is now considered neutralized. So obviously a number worse than this is pretty bad. Unemployment is expected to be kind of 4.5, 4.6, that kind of thing. So that'll be a big read. And I'm not sure what's going to happen in 26 from that stuff. I think you don't want to trade that. Instead, what you want to be looking at is more the price action. And for now, it's still bullish. Was Chinese stocks covered yet? We had a look at Chinese market. It looked pretty good. And I like the Chinese market from that perspective. I did notice as well, Baidu is kind of hitting that first resistance as well. And I've been looking at some of them just to see whether any of the big ones have started to rally. A couple of small activations, things like Barber look a little bit better than they did, a few weeks ago for sure. I mean, this is a relatively strong start here. Safe deposit box, yeah, you can definitely do that. I have a silver ounce. Yeah, I got a few silver bars. And I'll tell you what, they're heavy as ass. They are bloody annoying. Appreciate it, Robert. Thank you very much. Core Weave. Haven't seen that one in a while. This thing. Wait, how do I spell it? What's it? How's Core Weave? Core Weave. Something like this. An IPO. And you know my opinion on IPOs, guys. You get in, you get the hell out, come back in 18 months' time. So is it 18 months now? No. No, therefore, I'm not really, I don't particularly think it looks that great. Maybe you can look at 92 plus. It is okay. Any thoughts on the ATX market? Austria. Welcome from Austria. ATX. What is that? This thing. Never looked at it. Austrian market. Anyone ever traded the Austrian market before? Is this it? Oh, it's quite bullish. I mean, it's going. Well, I couldn't say that looks bearish, dude. I mean, if you were selling that, you'd be a crazy person. What do short-term and long-term bonds prices look like at the start of the year? Very strange, guy, because the long yields all breaking up, and I still don't know quite what to make of it because it's kind of weird. Usually, you would see long yields break up, and you'd see certain areas do better. So, particularly financials. So, you would see usually financials kind of pick up a bit, which they have been. I mean, getting how can we be bearish in the market? The financials are pretty strong. I got alerts just in case. And financials are holding up all right, guys. Financials versus SPY holding up pretty good as well. The other thing that I'd be looking at usually is if you go to the US 20Y. So 20Y is kind of like an inverse head and shoulders towards the upside. You go to US 30Y, it's again the same type of thing. We've got an inverse head and shoulders towards the upside. I mean, they all look like inflation or at least yields are going up in the long term. Why is the Korean index so bullish? Yeah, it's mad. AG is way too cheap. Easy way to look at AG is let's compare it to silver. It certainly is cheap. I wouldn't say it's way too cheap, but it's on the base range. So is it cheap enough for silver? Probably means they got some bad contracts. So 0.7. Yeah, I mean, you definitely would say it is cheap. What's your stream schedule? Depends. We do a Monday. Usually we do a Monday open stream, and this is the one that's free. And then we do an open stream every day, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and closed streams as well in our private community over at fxevolution.com if you want to join. And in those, we go through our watch list and stuff. And we did pretty well last year. Quite a lot of members found a lot of quality stocks. You can kind of see here there's a few codes. Obviously, pretty obvious that platinum, palladium are there. And if you know those other logos. But yeah, some nice trades last year for sure, and investments. If the world went to crap, physical is the only thing that would matter. Your takes are garbo. Okay. I wouldn't say my takes are garbage if you're talking about silver, dude, or gold or any of the other precious metals that you're claiming good. You will eventually hit a massive size as well. It's very easy to stack when you're stacking tens of thousands of dollars. When you start stacking a lot more, it's you have to insure it. There is a cost. Cool studio, thank you very much. When you say energy stocks might be one to watch, could it still be a few years before it breaks out? No, I think they're kind of breaking already, and this news obviously is exacerbating the break up. We're not seeing barrels break it. We're just seeing kind of certain oil stocks doing well. Oil services in particular doing well, which I think it's been my favorite sector for a little bit in terms of the new ones. When silver gets between $40 and $50 an ounce with gold, that's when I'm flipping. Yeah, I think you should be looking at ratios like that, David. So that's fair enough. Have you talked about Netflix? Certainly haven't. Should I be talking about Netflix? You mean because it's fallen a bit? Yeah, it's pretty decent decline. I mean, it is down 32%. Now, they bid, yeah. Warner Brothers board prepares to reject revised Paramount Skydance bid. There's all this stuff going on with like basically monopolies in this streaming business. Do you guys still have all of these, or have people cancelled their streaming services over the last year? I gotta say, I cancelled about 2 of them. I mean, I mostly just watch YouTube. You started in 2007. How long for it did it take you to do things consistently? Quite a few years. No doubt it was tough. I think the thing is that consistency often comes when you take away the stress of forcing it. The biggest mistake I see most traders and investors make is always that they try to make a certain amount per week. They try to force the market to give them money. This is the one game where you cannot force it. So people are used to going out and they go, let's say they become I don't know, landscaper, and they go to someone's house and they do some gardening and they get paid cash, and then they work 2 times the amount of hours and they make 2 times the amount of cash. You know what I'm saying? And the problem with stocks and investing is that you can't just say, I'm going to sit in front of the screen for 20 hours a day, and therefore I'm going to find so many more opportunities. I'm going to be rich. This is the one game in town where less is sometimes more. And putting in heaps of time actually is counterintuitive. So I'd say that's pretty important. I'd say you need to give it about 2 to 4 years would be the perfect time. That's true conservative movement. At least that's the expectation. Intel was upgraded to a buy. With Netflix, I think we'll be looking at 85 before it really gets interesting. It's still an endowment trend. That's true, Robert. Not even top 10. Yep. That's still a component, though. Again, I wouldn't go too much into the narrative. Thank you very much for being up at 5:30. And instead, what I would do is I would focus on the reality of the flows. Is Alpha good setup? No. No. It dropped a lot. Kind of scary. Lucas, thank you very much. PLN 59.99. Appreciate your work. Can you do TA on PBF? Sure can. Valero Energy. Moving good today. Not really important who pumps the oil for them. Okay. So this is PBF. PBF. It's up quite a lot today. Up 16.44%. Company is only 3.3 billion. Oil refining, obviously one of the stronger plays coming off the back here of everything that we know in terms of the news. Look, it looks fine. I mean, you breached here at 34. Similar to many oil stocks, they're all kind of improving, and they have been for a little while. So I'd say like it looks pretty good. And of course, you're targeting these highs, if not higher. So nothing wrong with that. Why is silver dumping? Because silver is talked about by everybody now, and it's hugely volatile. You know, it dropped 15, 16% like this. It's not where the best trade is at the moment. What do you think about natural gas? Looked at it before. Couldn't really like too much there. Yield curve steepening, certainly something to be considered about. Korea's Kospi. Yes, have a look at this one, guys. Whoa! Look at it. That is. I mean, there's a lot of weird bubble market indices going on right now. Look at that thing. And this market is well known to boom and bust. Look at it. Boom, bust, boom, bust, boom, bust, boom, bust, boom, bust. Yeah. It's pretty worrying. I mean, we have Kospi, that Austrian market was going too. We got the Nikkei. I think the Vietnamese market, Nifty's obviously up to new all-time high. We've got a lot of markets breaking up. Now, that's not inherently bearish yet. It's obviously bullish for now. And I said that last year when we were looking at this one, but you've got to keep in the back of your mind, these need to be monitored. That's why I won't be picking any particular company, man. I just take the whole sector. Hey, Tom, would you structure a ZOM CVX COP and OIH swing trade? They are rallying on Venezuelan news in pre-market, and I don't want to FOMO. Yeah, I mean, we looked at oil services before at the start of the stream. They're up quite a lot today, but they're still down where they were in December. I like them there, and I continue to like them anyway. I mean, my main aim for these has never been based on this type of news. I just think that the flows look better. Still think they do. Tom, opinion on China pump has begun. Yeah, I am starting to smell it out. Like, I definitely think the flow is looking better on the charts, and there is an argument to be said here. I'm just having a look at a few of these. So if we look at the Shanghai comps, obviously unimproved. We looked at HSI before, broke up. I quite like it. I think it looks all right. I mean, you won't know until you get past 27.2, but first stage definitely an improvement. What do you think of natural gas? Why is everyone coming in on natural gas today? Doesn't look good on charts yet. If the world goes to crap, only thing that matters is lead. Yeah, if the world goes bad, just remember generally fiat currency is the way to go first. I know you might think that's not true, but generally tends to be. And the story at the moment is that everyone's hating on fiat currencies. And I always say that when that exacerbates and continues on up, then often fiat will be needed, at least this time round. I do think, though, that fiat will be massively restructured in the future. Thoughts on PLTR? You can't think of it as being bearish after what's been happening. And that guy that owns PLTR is, yeah, big winner at the moment. Bit scary, that guy. I never had Netflix, but I do have YouTube Premium. Yep. Cancelled. Yep. I believe this. Cancelled streaming subs and went heavy into AI subs. Okay. I would say that Venezuela stuff was even bearish defense because you can do so much with so much less resources. Look, I'm no expert on that, but I'm not sure about that one. Yeah. Look, it was always the aim. I mean, it was pretty clear as day. As soon as they started the streaming services, remember originally it was torrents, which a lot of people used, and all that weird piracy stuff that people were doing. And then it moved on to they made a great product. The product was relatively cheap. And then you thought, okay, I'll cancel cable and now I'll go to Netflix or whatever. And then, of course, everyone can't stop their cable. So then they started moving priority services onto streaming services, and then they upped the prices 10 times over. How are the good old Mag 7 going? We haven't talked about them for a while. Yeah, well, I've been watching them. So here's Mags. It's just sideways, man. Not much point in talking about something that's doing nothing. So they're doing nothing at this stage. Thank you very much. Holy guacamole. Appreciate it, dude. Thanks. Thoughts on Hood? Yes, I think Hood has had its like big price action last year, and for now, I think it's consolidating. What you think about energy fuels? The technicals look pretty good. The millions of views. Well, that's Really nice. Wow. Pretty sick looking accumulation there. Mm, yeah. Bad, dude. Obviously needs to hold today, but I guess it probably will. Hmm. Not too bad, eh? Yeah. I tend to agree with your concepts there. Thanks, Sunshine Girl. Appreciate it. PLTR, we can look at it again in a second if you want. This is actually a pretty decent inverse head and shoulders pattern in a sector that you would have to like anyway. I mean, kind of see it's a little bit small, 3.96. It's a pretty solid break. Imagine going back to Atlantis and getting in on natural gas. Natural gas was in the news. Well, if it's in the press, guys, it's in the price. What was it a few weeks ago that everyone was coming to us with? Oh, and I was like, stop talking about it. It was so stupid. And it was like a terrible idea. And I remember we were so disinterested. Well, at least I was disinterested in talking about it because I was like, that is just not going to work out. It really didn't either. Can't remember what the pair was. Are we putting calls on CBX? CBX has a pretty good flag on it, but probably missed out. The implied vol will go up today. So if you miss out, you miss out. You got to move to the next one. What are some energy stocks beside ETFs? Yeah, I guess like, is this what you guys want? You want to have like individual stocks and stuff from the perspective of those sectors. I did post over on X a few individual stocks. You can have a look at it here. So, one second. There you go. So, these are some of the stocks that we could have gone over them, but these are the ones that have winner loss kind of scenarios. I mean, I don't mind covering single stocks, but I do find that the general concept is often the best, and you can pull into it your single stocks if you wish to. Micron's still going up 10%. I know you bought that up a few times. Let's have a look at Micron. Oh, it's flying. It's absolutely flying. Jeez. Wow. I knew it was up a bit, but that is absolutely going crazy. You just got to ride that thing, but you don't chase anymore. Too high. I don't know what the ratio is, but wanting to do some fundamentals on that one right now and see how expensive it was. Yeah, Rocket Lab. I wouldn't really worry about that too much. It just look that this is way too much vol. So very tough. Very little edge on this chart. Remember, you got to understand where do you have edge, where do you not have edge. So we look at some stocks. Last year I thought I had some edge on Boeing down in this price, and obviously we're bullish. It's doing all right. Again, there was some. You can see it's in the watch list here. There was some edge there, and a few of these stocks had edge in them. So most of them did pretty well. So again, when you have edge, you've got edge. When you don't, yeah. How do you feel about farm machinery at the moment? I did have a setup on Deer, but it hasn't. Oops, it hasn't even uh, done anything yet. So I've just been watching. Patient, patient, patient. I do like Moo though. I think agriculture had a horrible 25. So I'm looking at agriculture very, very closely. We don't recommend that, John. SoFi, yeah. Thoughts on Tesla, dead cat or reversal target? I think Tesla is coming down to an interesting level at 430. I'm not really too interested at 445. If it hits 430, we can talk. Yeah. Well, obviously, we hit our target for it, so kind of chilling. Coco, stay away. A lot of chasers are going to get hurt today. Tend to agree. Rich says it's not a good day for me today, Thomas. I mostly make money on red days. Really? I don't know about that, Rich. I don't think you want to be making money on red days, dude. There's more green days than red days in the stock market. All right. Cool guys. We obviously looked at a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, we stream. I stream all the opens, but I do a lot of them at fxevolution.com, man, for the private community. Obviously, we do the daily closes though, for you guys free here on YouTube, which is our main show, and I really appreciate you guys watching it. So I guess to summarize here, we like, of course, precious metals again into 2026, and I do continue to like metals, minerals, rare earths this year. I just don't see why they're bad at this point. We obviously covered off on some winners and losers, or mostly winners from the positions of what happened on the weekend. We had a look at the S&P 500. We found that it was generally bullish in terms of TA. There was nothing really glaring at this stage. We looked at yields. We didn't really see anything there that we can find edge on. We talked about non-farm payrolls this week, of course, and crypto markets, particularly Bitcoin, which I think is a bit of a sleeper and has had some nice movements on it. We're looking at 94.5 break to maybe open up there at 106. I'm super excited to see the close on this one. I think it's a bit of a sleeper, and it just shows that when everyone's floating over on silver right now, which I understand, but you know the good money on silver was made. Now it's volatile. There is always a different setup. We also talked about Asia and how the fact that China markets were looking interesting, and we looked at some serious runs on Austria, on Korean markets, on the Nikkei. Those things are in like bubble-licious style runs. So again, a story we'll keep breaking down. But now financials continue up, and therefore we don't see contagion. We will be watching 2026 to see whether there are any problems, but at this stage, we cannot see anything just yet. Do remember it's a midterm election year, guys. We'll bring in a whole bunch of stats, and get ready as well to sub to the upcoming webinar that I'll be doing, which will be completely free, where I'll talk about some of my thoughts for the year ahead. Guys, it's a massive 26 start off. I got to say, I don't know if I feel that relaxed coming back from the break, because it wasn't 100% a break, was it? We had so much news still coming through. Should have switched off from it, but I had to make a couple of vids in between. Either way, we're still refreshed. 26, going to be a great year. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed 25 with us, and make sure to sub if you're new to the channel, and we will see you later on today. Thank you so much, guys. Bye for now. And I'm going to give you a clap on the way out because you guys kicked some ass in 25. Very impressive. You're the best. Can I say? Catch you for now. See ya.